Good morning and welcome to Presence of Light with Charlie Riverman, I be he. It's a pleasure to be here once again on a lovely, chilly but sunny Friday morning here in York, Maine, USA. And as I announced the title, welcome, I start to see people coming in. As I announced, it's today's show is the day after Thanksgiving here in the United States of America. And I have some very mixed emotions about that holiday, although I'm thankful. The history of it is not exactly as, how do I say this, romantic and welcoming as what we have been told by our historians. And so it brings up a lot of issues for me and many people around this country. When I spent the day yesterday with family members, and I don't usually speak a lot among family members because they're more of a nature where the spiritual aspects of life and the delving into conscious awareness is unlimited experience for them. And I bless them and I love them for who they are. They're beautiful souls. But I can clear a table real quick when I start to speak. And hopefully I don't clear out everybody here. But I know you're attracted to this, so I feel welcome here. So I wanted to start with our thankfulness and what are we thankful for? And for everybody to just kind of tap into a sense of thankfulness and maybe think about what you might be thankful for in your life today or any day, and realize that what we're all being thankful for is part of a larger cycle of life, which comes under the heading of cosmic order. And that's a big mouthful. But when we're co-creating and we're in harmony and balance with each other, we have reasons to be thankful because the abundance flows, the love flows, the light shines. We're highly creative. We're taking care of each other. We're making sure nobody goes hungry. We are making sure people are warm, they're fed, they're housed. And so there's a general wellness in cosmic order. And when I came home last night, I picked up the Gene Keys book by Richard Rudd, which is an amazing journey. I don't delve in it too deeply. I just skim it, but it teaches me a lot of aspects that I normally wouldn't look at. And many of you who have listened to me know that I love to shift consciousness. So here we are. Let's shift a little consciousness. What is cosmic order? And really, and we've always heard the saying, as above, so below. That's the microcosm reflecting the macrocosm, so that it's equally in balance. So the smaller part is part of the larger part, and the larger part is, and they reflect on each other and they work. And when I read this, I immediately thought of the yin-yang symbol of half dark, half light, perfectly balanced. rotating, spinning sphere of polarity and all of the dualities that we embrace, but in perfect balance. And unfortunately, in human history, we have lived unbalanced. And as we see it playing out in the world now, we see even greater imbalance. And the gene codes talk about it as corruption. And the word corruption hit me, and I looked and I said, wow, there was corruption when the forefathers of this country, we call them, celebrated the first Thanksgiving, supposedly here on American soil. There was corruption then, and there is corruption now. How many hundred years later? There was corruption even before that. And what is corruption? But basically, it's a disturbance in information. And so as the gene codes pointed out, it's a data corruption. It's a corruption of data or data. I think that's the right pronunciation of it. Information that we'll receive, whether it be through our parents, through our teachers, through the historians, has been corrupted. And so we come to this place today where we see great upheaval around the world. There's not one country in this world today that is living in harmony and balance. There is some sort of corruption. There is some sort of devious, greedy purpose behind the scenes that is going on and playing out. And so here's the imbalance: is we have a day of Thanksgiving where we are thankful for the blessings that we have, and we try to bestow those blessings on each other, and everybody tries to play nice for one day. In the midst of all of this crime, there's no other word for it but crime, criminal activity, through governments and hierarchies. And so part of my shifting consciousness was to say, how do we look at that today? We need to really break free of this. This is sort of like we're enslaved in this hierarchical system. And the intention of that is to produce fear in each of us so that we will obey and follow. And where does that leave us as individual sovereign souls who are filled with light, filled with creative intention, who truly seek in our hearts harmony and unity, but can't seem to find a way to express it in this world? Well, part of the reason is because of the system that we've been living under for thousands of years. And it's a misrepresentation of power. And whenever we misrepresent power, it can be corrupted and used to extract and create an imbalance. And we see that imbalance every day in our lives. This is not cosmic order. And this is what the message for me was when you look at the cosmos, the universe, and you look at how the planets relate to each other, it would be as if Pluto decided, I'm going to be the ruler of the solar system. And I'm going to organize all the other planets to do what I think they should do. I'm just going to intimidate them and give them false information to make them believe that this is the way that they need to be organized when they're truly already organized. But if I make them fearful and get them off balance, then I can rule the solar system. Whether it's planets or humans, this is what happens. The planets don't do that. The universe has a natural pattern and a natural flow. It's really what's been called a collective harmony. And so there is no corruption. There is just a natural flow of positive and negative elements, which are imbalanced at times, but always the energy always seeks to balance itself. In some past talks, I've talked about healing and how I feel that healing, as we understand it, if we've been told about it, is not what we need. It's balancing. Now, this doesn't mean that the person who is physically ill isn't suffering or experiencing great stress or distress. But what it means is if we start to look at balancing our system, whether it be through food, through our water, through our environment, and start to come back into a balance with everything around us, healing will occur on many levels automatically, because it's the natural order of the cosmos, the universe. And so part of our problem is giving in to the fears. And fear has been used to disrupt the equilibrium. And when you disrupt the equilibrium, it allows one or the other side to create a hierarchy. And when we create a hierarchy, we also, in that same instant, create victims and perpetrators. And so I'm going to bring this back to Thanksgiving here in the United States, which was celebrated as, or I was taught that the Pilgrims, the first settlers, the first European settlers who came here seeking refuge and then finding abundance, attracted more people to come over here and live and dwell out of the reaches of the hierarchy of Britain and Europe. But they came here and they met with the indigenous people of America, the real Americans. And because they felt superior to them, they brought their hierarchy over here and manipulated and dealt with the indigenous people in corrupt ways. And so I'm not so sure there was a first Thanksgiving. But I do know that the indigenous people helped those first European settlers survive those first winters. And there are many historical accounts of that. But we honor that in this country. And yet when you look at the history of what has happened since then, we have the supposed civilized Europeans came here and committed genocide. We have done to the indigenous American people none other than what Hitler did. And in many ways, very similarly. And yet, We pretend this hasn't occurred. And we pretend, oh, Thanksgiving is this wonderful day of giving thanks. One day a year. Thanksgiving should be every day. And Thanksgiving isn't about having a meal and celebrating just our abundance, but Thanksgiving is to celebrate respect for each other. And we've lost the flavor of that. So the food we eat is very bland. It's lost its true meaning. And so we falsely sit at these tables with our families, sometimes very uncomfortably, because we know that somebody at this table represents the hierarchy, and some of us represent those who are controlled by them. And yet all of them in this particular year were very quiet. And I think the reason is they realize that the end is coming to their lifestyle and their way of life because it doesn't work. And they don't know what to do. And many of us are like that. We don't know what to do when things don't work. We've relied so much on the hierarchy to function. And we've believed in it. We've been taught to believe in it. And right now we're seeing exactly the worst case scenarios playing out in the world. And we're shocked. Rightfully so, we should be shocked. Because all of history is carried in our DNA. And so when things play out through fear, we are either triggered as a victim or a perpetrator, because that's what exists in hierarchies. And it's based on our animal instincts, not our true conscious awareness. So I said earlier, I like to shift consciousness, and this is what I want to try to get across today. Let's shift our consciousness to something new. Let's think out of the box. Let's think out of the planet. Let's think about the universe. Let's think about how the patterns in nature work in harmony and balance with each other. Sure, some things die off, some things, there's invasive species, there's all of these dynamics going on. But in the general big picture, everything begins from a seed and grows and has a life, and it expands and it contributes to all other lives. And then it dies, and as it dies, it benefits everything around it. So it's a win-win situation. We may feel uncomfortable in that because it destroys our vision of I, me, mine, of who, what, when, where, why, and how. And we have to settle into what we feel now is a less than perspective of ourselves. But in truth, what we're doing is expanding our consciousness to reach out and become as above, as divine creators, as co-creators. So this is what Thanksgiving brought about in my silly mind, my human mind, my ego mind, to think about last night and lose sleep over as I came in and out of the dream time. And so I want you to remember that when we express fear and play into it, It's basically drives unconscious anger, brings us up in it, and we want to release that. And that's what happens. The energy happens, we want to release it, and we will attack somebody. And usually what we do is we attack somebody that doesn't look like us, or doesn't eat the same food, or doesn't practice the same spirituality, or, whatever it is, has some level of difference. And what then anger does is drives us to see the difference in each other. And it creates separation. So you hear me say a lot of times, that I remember the statement that Papa Markasha said, "I defy separation." And when he said those words, I couldn't believe, it just hit me so clearly. I defy separation. I have a friend who doesn't like to say negative statements, and she said, "I embrace unity." And I said, how beautiful. Here's the polarity of that. Here's the yin and yang. Here's the balance, the harmony. But they're both saying the same beautiful statement is it's time to end this hierarchical system, which does not serve anyone but a few. So we've been corrupted. The data has been corrupted. The information we've received and been taught about life has been corrupted in order to perpetuate a system which in and of itself is corrupt. So what does uncorruption look like? And that is embraced by collective harmony. And we don't know really what collective harmony truly is, because the only thing we can look at is nature. And we can look at the trees whose roots go in the ground, and the water which comes up from the earth and into the roots of the trees and expands and creates the oxygen and exchanges carbon dioxide. And that cycle of life, that living cycle of life, is truly collective harmony. And we have to really look and say, wow, we don't live like that at all anymore. And we're becoming worse, not better. With all our technology, with all our discoveries, we seem to be getting further and further and further away, to the point where we have people who are thinking, oh, we can't live on Earth anymore. We're just going to go move to another planet. And I say in my head, and bring our disease there? So I say we need to take care of our dis-ease here. And we can do this. You and me, one person at a time, two people at a time, three gathered together, collectively embracing newness, a new thought, and the ability to look outside of what we've been told and what we've been taught, and feel through our hearts, come back into a compassionate relationship with each other and all of nature. And what we're doing in that process is we'll be narrowing the extremes. Right now we're at this extreme edges of this, and I'm sure it can expand even more. I don't believe in it bursting, but I just look at it and say, what's that going to feel like? It's not going to be healthy and feeling good for me, that's for sure. But we can start to winnow it down into less separateness. We're not going to do this in a day. We're not going to do this in a week. We're not going to do this in one lifetime. But we need to start the ball rolling so that our children and our children's children will have a foundation to build on. And so I ask all of you to think about that. What can you do because of your thankfulness, your thanksgiving? What are you going to give? Your thanks, how are you going to give that thanks? How are you going to express that in a world? In a world that's crying, screaming to be set free from the principles of hierarchy. The universe is a self-organizing being. And I will call it a being because I feel it's alive. And it results in cosmic order. And cosmic order is that morphing of one into another, the yin and the yang, which balances. And yeah, it stretches this way, and it stretches that way, but it always comes back into alignment. And in my final minutes here, I have a book. I've read several books by this gentleman, Ilie Cioara, and his words were translated into English. He's considered a mystic and a poet, and so he wrote this on duality. And yes, we do live in a world of duality, but it doesn't have to be negative, and it doesn't have to always push our boundaries. It needs to flow back and forth. It needs to be balanced. We are the balancers. This is our responsibility. So I just wanted to read this to you, and I'll post it later on the link page here. Duality. Creation and creator. Two different aspects separated by thought, matter and idea, man and divinity, thought and the thinker, fear and the fearful entity are just a few revealing examples. Why is there separation in the living moment? How does the whole divide itself in this encounter? I am creation, fear, thought. I am divinity and matter. When I am just being in utter simplicity. This something which separates is the fictitious ego. Through obsessive impulses, it creates separation. Conflict is born out of dualism. People live in enmity because they don't know their own being. When I observe the desire, thought, the sentimental impulse, I am one with them in the now. There is no separation. I define myself as unity. In this state, I am love, and I love. It is only when duality vanishes that harmony ensues. Body and mind as one, opening to the eternal spheres. We encounter reality. Through it, we become happy. We find the meaning of life united with the moment. And so I encourage each of you to journey within yourself and become aware of the duality within you, of the yin and the yang within you, and to realize that it's all of you, and neither side is better than the other. They're equal in power and purpose. And they are part of the cosmic order of life. And we need to stop trying to step outside of that cosmic order and rule it as if it is an object. We need to stop objectifying life and learn to embrace it once again with full open hearts. And that's my Thanksgiving message, because I am thankful to be here, to be able to share some of these strange thoughts to many with others. Because as I open to these sometimes bizarre revelations, I find myself becoming more free within myself to create and to love, to be happy, to serve others, to share, to be kind, to smile. I no longer run around looking to say, who's going to hurt me today? What does that person want? I'm able to see them in the moment for who they are. And yes, some moments are not pretty. And some moments can be frightening. And a lot of moments turn my stomach. But I know they're part of the cosmic order. I know they're part of the macrocosm and the microcosm. And for me to think that needs to be changed, then I'm only hurting myself. With that, I'm complete today. I love you all. It's a blessing. I couldn't look over the side because there was just so much coming through. And I will, comment for those of you who have, and if not, I'll leave you a little heart. It'll say from Humanity Healing, but it's from me. Because I can't sign on as just Charlie Riverman. But I did put my Facebook page up there if you want to tap in and see who I am and what I do and go a little deeper with any of that. And I love you. I thank you. And I bless you. For you are the light of the world. The presence of light that is needed now more than ever. And I thank you for being here. Have a great week. And who knows what Riverman will talk about next week. Love you all. Have fun. Enjoy whatever you're doing and be at peace. And I'm going to try to figure out how I get out of here is the next thing. But that's okay. There it is. There's the word finish. Okay. Bye-bye.